Just waiting for YouTube and Facebook to kick off as well. Hello, Facebook and YouTube. Lauren here. I am the host of the Afterlight, which is a fabulous, well, I think it's fabulous, new podcast, which is all dedicated to, having conversations around spirituality and around, things such as topics such as angels and manifestation. And I've talked to a lot of mediums, and I just recently talked to an Aboriginal medicine man, and I've talked to psychics and talked to a pranic healer, and talked to people who specialize in a whole variety of things. And really, it's just a podcast, which is, the whole focus of the podcast is essentially to give you a new perspective on life, to give you something to think about, to maybe look at your life differently. So there are new episodes that come out every Thursday, wherever it is you get your podcast. And, in support of the podcast, I'm also spending a little bit of time here going live, talking to you about things that are, potentially on my mind, or seeing what you're up to too. So if you have anything that, you want to talk about, you want to share, please do leave it in the comments, and I'll be sure to answer your questions, or I'll be sure to just, mention your comment. So today I was kind of looking for motivation as to, what I really felt called to speak about today. And I decided that I would talk a little bit about, living the life that you want to live. I think that so often we get caught up in, living lives for other people, or playing roles that we think we need to play, when really we need to just honor our truth and, be where we are. And it's okay to change our mind as we continue to evolve and shift through life. I know that sometimes, I've gone through ebbs and flows where I've been really interested in exploring my spirituality, where I've been really, reading a lot, listening to a lot of podcasts, doing a lot of meditation, and then also going through periods where I haven't done any of that. So I think that, along the journey of life, it is totally okay and appropriate for you to also take time out, if you feel called to do that, to pause and reflect on, the kind of life that you want to have. Sorry, YouTube, Facebook, just readjusting there. Because really you're in the driver's seat, aren't you? You're in control of your reaction to life. You're in control of the ways you spend your time. And I think that sometimes we actually get caught up in, things that aren't serving us, and doing things that aren't serving us, and spending time with people that aren't serving us, or aren't reflective of who we are or who we want to grow into. And I think that, as you spend time getting to know yourself more, working on yourself, and, I had a really fascinating conversation with one of our future guests today, James Babin, and we talked a lot about this stuff. If you're not taking the time to get to know who you are, I think you're missing it. And I think that, sometimes it's easy for us to get distracted. And how I was talking before about how I've gone through ebbs and flows, and I've taken a break from spirituality. I totally think that that's important, especially if you're learning a lot of stuff, to take time to really digest that. But at the same time, it's also important to realize that, you are in the driver's seat, and you're choosing what you're doing in the moment, every moment, whether you are doing it consciously or not. So I guess what I wanted to just focus on today was just talking a little bit about that. My conversation with James today, and that episode is coming out in the next, month or so. So it's a spoiler alert. But, we did talk a lot about how it's important to kind of spend time attracting what you want. So for example, self-love. So if, self-love is something that you struggle with, I know it's something that I sometimes struggle with, ebbs and flows again of life. It's important to recognize that, you are love and you are light. And if you're ever feeling less than that, to take the time to really nurture yourself and, watch a romantic movie, or, spend time with people who you love, or doing things that make you feel loved and supported. And I think that by doing these outside actions and spending time with these outside actions, that you'll continue to generate and, have more of that vibe within yourself as you grow and, you learn more about yourself. So there's a poem that I wanted to read for you today that's about uh, basically living your best life and taking the time to, you know, kind of look at your life. So let me read that to you now, and then I'll talk more on it. It's by Charles Bukowski, and it's called The Laughing Heart. And it's one of my favorites from him. It's so beautiful to me. And there's a stunning YouTube video online where he's actually reading his poem himself. So my voice won't do it justice. You really want his gorgeous, sultry voice, feeling all the words, but I'll do my best at the moment to share that with you. So, The Laughing Heart by Charles Bukowski. Your life is your life. Don't let it be clubbed into dank submission. Be on the watch. There are ways out. There is light somewhere. It may not be much light, but it beats the darkness. Be on the watch. The gods will offer you chances. Know them. Take them. You can't beat death, but you can beat death in life, sometimes. And the more often you learn to do it, the more light there will be. Your life is your life. Know it while you have it. You are marvelous. The gods wait to delight in you. How good is that? Just so many feelings. So, when I read that poem and when I reflect on some of the words in that poem, it really just makes me think about how there are lots of opportunities. There are lots of forks in the road. There are lots of, chances for us to make decisions that serve us or not. And, in situations, even if they're tough, you might be going through something or know somebody who is going through something tough. Look for the sliver of light, because I do believe that there always is one, just even a sliver. Whether it's through loss and family coming together and reuniting, or whether it's through, a loss of some other kind, and, now you're looking at your life in a new way with a fresh set of eyes or a new perspective. Somebody I talked to today, she was in a relationship for 9 years and found out that, her partner had been unfaithful. And when she found that out, her whole life changed and shifted, and she went on to live an extraordinary life. And, I do believe that, in darkness, that there are slivers of light. So slivers of light. So just remember that if you or someone is going through a difficult time, that, your life is your life, and don't allow it to, overwhelm you or beat you down. And remember that there are ways out. There's light, there are choices that you can make that are supportive and beautiful and will nurture you. So I just wanted to also, before I kind of wrapped up, because I didn't really have much more to say today on the subject, I really just wanted to read that poem to you and just check in and see how you're doing. I thought I would just let you know about some of the really awesome episodes that the Afterlight has, in case you hadn't checked it out lately. So basically, the Afterlight podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts. If you have a podcast provider that the Afterlight can't be found on, can you please send me a DM and let me know, and I'll be sure to get it put on there so you can listen to it. So one of our recent episodes came out last week, and it's with Michelle Price, and we talked a lot about past lives and also the importance of cord cutting and healing. So one of the things that I love a lot about Michelle is that she gives really tangible actions for you to take to remove cords from you. One thing she talks about is the karate chop, which is really awesome. She shares a lot of really interesting stories as well. As a medium, she does a lot of past life regression work, and she shared some of those stories in our conversation. So if you love that kind of topic, you definitely want to make sure you check out that episode. The episode prior to that was so great. It was with Lynn, and she's an angel worker, light worker. She does house clearings and things like that as well. We talked a lot about children and spirits, because there are children who can see spirits, and there are adults who used to see spirits as children who can't now, or maybe some of them still can. And she talked a lot about actual ways of supporting your child if that's something that they're experiencing. We also talked a lot about the role of the ego, and we talked about the power of intention. When you intend something, how important that is, and willpower and things like that. So that was a really great episode as well, really just thought-provoking, and we also shared some laughs as well, which is great. The episode before that with Leanne, the barefoot medium, was also just another stellar episode. Leanne's a natural medium. She always tells it like it is. She is super smart and super intuitive. And I really loved how she talked a lot about, the importance of boundaries. She talked about trusting the process. She talked about life as a natural medium and what growing up for her was like with that. She talked about, different stories of how her gift shows up for her, because if you know anything about mediums, they often have their own language, right? So she talked a little bit about that in our experience as well, which was just fabulous. So the episode prior to that was with Cassandra Knight, and she's an astrologer and also a psychic. And man, that episode was so good. She talked a lot about, the way that the world was at the time that we were recording. So that was in early July. And she also had some interesting predictions coming up in July and November. She also explained a lot about astrology that I wasn't really clear on, and how you can use it. Sorry, I was clear on after, but I didn't know before, and how you can actually use it to really advance you and help with your career. She also specializes a lot with women and female entrepreneurs. So if you're a businesswoman and you're looking for some direction or some motivation or some guidance, definitely get a session with Cassandra. She's also giving 10% off to people from the Afterlight if you mention that when you book with her. And Cassandra has also agreed to come back on the show in November to see what some of her predictions, whether they came true or what that looked like. So, that's a really, really good starter episode to check out for sure. It was really, really awesome. Okay, so there are so many more episodes. I had another one with Robert Schwartz. He's the author of Your Soul's Gift and Your Soul's Plan. He talked a lot about our pre-birth plan. And a pre-birth plan was around the idea and the concept that, we choose our plan here on earth before we come to earth. We choose the people we're going to spend the most of our time with. We choose, the lessons that we want to learn. And we talked a lot about that in our conversation. I also had some pretty, I thought interesting questions for him, because I had some stuff I struggled with in his book, and I asked him about it, and he really just made it clear for me, I guess, on the answer, and I understood a little bit more. So, I would really recommend that you check it out. I felt that, our conversation was also particularly encouraging and supporting. It made me feel, when I read his book, a lot more compassionate and understanding of, sometimes people who have more challenges than other people, and the fact that they were in power when they made those choices to come to earth and to show up in that way. So we talked a lot about that in that conversation, and it's definitely moving. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. You know what I mean? So if you've listened at all this far, I know that you're going to be jumping on, checking out the Afterlight, and I really hope you do. And if you love it, please do tell your friends. So that's just what I wanted to share. If there's anything that you would like me to reflect on, or any types of guests that you'd like to have or hear on the show, please do send me a DM. I'm always open to having these discussions with you. And again, all the work is filled with love and with light. And so if you're coming from that perspective, then I've got time to discuss that with you. All right, so that's what I wanted to share today. Thank you so much for your time, as always. Instagram, this beautiful painting behind me, and on Facebook and YouTube, the beautiful painting that you see behind me is from Emma Barr Fine Art. She is a Whitehorse, Yukon-based artist out of Northern Canada, and her work is just phenomenal. And yeah, so I wanted to give her a little bit of a shout out as well, because it always serves as my beautiful backdrop. And I'm sure you've appreciated it as well. Okay, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.